Welcome to episode 18 of the Adventuring for Mere Mortals podcast. It's your favorite co-host, Kyle and Trevor, and this month we're joined by Zach Darden, a former park ranger for the city of Albuquerque Open Spaces. Zach is also one of the 100 subjects that is going to be featured in the All Humans Outside project that former guest Tommy Twerk Corey is currently working on. Trevor, take it away.
Well, this month on the podcast, we have Zach Darden. He was human number 11 in a previous guest, Tommy Twerk Corey, his photo project, All Humans Outside. That's episode 11, if anybody wants to go back and listen to that one. He inadvertently, we keep having people on the podcast that were originally from the Midwest and then moved somewhere else. So we've got another one of those. So Zach is from around the Indianapolis area. And he was also a former park ranger for the city of Albuquerque Open Spaces. So as soon as I saw that, when he came up on all of Twerk's Instagram posts, I was like, nope, we got to get this guy on. So I think we're going to have a great episode. So Zach, just tell us a little bit about yourself, because you'll do way better than I will.
Yeah, of course. So like you said before, originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. I've actually moved out to New Mexico the first time when I was around probably 11 years old. Stayed here until I started high school, went back to Indiana, then came back to New Mexico when I got midway through college, just because I missed the Southwest. I like the mountains, the openness, the people, the food, everything about it. It's just that kind of called me to come back. And obviously, like you said, I was a park ranger and just an avid outdoors enthusiast. Like I scuba dive,
Nice.
Tend to do a bit of dirt biking and four-wheeling. I hunt and fish, so that's another big part of me. I actually am living right now in my off-grid home that I built, which is something that I'm pretty proud of. I mean, it still has a little bit of things to get kind of worked on, but proud of it. And yeah, I love meeting people. That's one thing that I'm really passionate about doing, just meeting people and conversating and kind of like seeing what people's cultures and their backgrounds are like, and just kind of sharing mine as well.
Awesome. That's the perfect kind of way to be on a podcast. So
Right on.
So let's, like, we normally do our little catch up, and Kyle, we don't talk as much as we should outside of this.
No, because you live on a boat half the time.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on a boat half the time. But Kyle, what have you been up to?
Not a bad place to be.
Yeah. Training for Ragbri, but that has abruptly come to a halt. I had a pretty bad wreck over the weekend, covered in road rash and everything. Literally no broken bones that I know of. But it was spectacular, and there was no one around to see it. So, but other than that, exploring the local state park around here, Gifford Pinchot. It's an 8-mile loop around the lake. I've done different sections of it at different points in time. Really nice. They got a swimming hole, so I'm going to go check that out at some point. Been trying to plan kayak trips, getting out in the river, spending time on the water. The water level's dropping around here just like everywhere else. We're kind of in a drought, but it's raining right now. Temperatures are getting lower, so that's been nice. Went back to Illinois, so hung out with the family. Went to a Cardinals baseball game, and then did the trek back. Yeah, pretty much it's been riding my bike and not trying to crash. What about you, Trev? You've been out for work for a bit.
So I work out on a boat in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and I've been having to go out more than I usually do. This time I was out there for my full 2 weeks. So it feels like a really long time. It turns into Groundhog Day. Every day is the same for 14 days, and it makes training for Ragbri hard. So I just kind of, anytime I go to the gym, luckily we have a gym on the boat, but I just get on one of the stationary bikes and I just crank up the resistance and just pedal and try not I'll try to make myself hurt a little bit. But yeah, so now that I'm back home for a bit, at least for these 2 weeks, I'm going to try to get some nice long rides in. I've got some planned out. I think I'm going to go on one tomorrow.
Nice.
But yeah, just a lot, like, work's been crazy because we got some people on my team that are doing things, expat things all over the globe. So I'm left to pick up the slack because I'm staying domestic currently. But I did have one crazy, I don't know, it sucked in the moment when it happened. So I had a travel snafu that ended up being interesting now that I look back at it now. So when I'm on the boat, we take a helicopter off the boat to get onto land. And through all of my travel issues, I think I traveled on almost every form of transportation except for like a tuk-tuk. But so I took a helicopter from the boat to land. Then I took like an SUV to the airport. I took a plane. So I missed my connecting flight due to weather. And I had them redirect me to Chicago just so I could get close to home. But then I took a regional train to get to the Amtrak station. Then I took Amtrak to home. So it was a long, drawn-out process. But I think I used pretty much every type of transportation available to me to get back in slightly faster than I would have if I would have just waited on another flight. But I wanted to get home. So
that's crazy.
It really sucked in the moment, and I was very sleep deprived. But looking back, it's like, oh, cool. I used all the different public transportation possible.
Yeah, that's really cool, but crazy at the same time. I'm glad you made it home.
Yeah, it was an ordeal. Everybody was waiting for me, but whatever. That's part of the job. But yeah, Zach, what have you been up to, man?
Kind of just living out the summer right now. Yeah, I actually have a boat trip planned for this weekend, which is going to be pretty cool. Like, yeah, me and a couple friends and my girlfriend, we reserved a boat up in this lake called Navajo Lake, which is up in northern New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do that a little bit. Been four-wheeling a lot. I actually found this like really cool area that's kind of like behind my property. It's like a really open area. It kind of looks like the Great Plains almost, but like a New Mexican version of that with like the cactus and the juniper trees and stuff kind of dotted here. So I've been kind of just riding, exploring right there like recently. Really just been doing a lot of landscaping work. It's like I've been trying to like utilize my time in the summer when it's not freezing and or super windy during the windy season, just like putting gravel down, plant some grass, plant a couple trees. Been doing a little bit of traveling too. Yeah, I was actually in Indiana last week, and then I'm planning on going to California here in another probably 3 or 4 weeks, and then we're hoping to get to Washington right after that. So yeah, they're kind of just going back and forth and seeing family in different places and whatnot has been kind of cool. But yeah, I would say mainly just kind of just hanging out, just doing stuff in the summer, like seeing friends, kind of experiencing new parts of life. So it's been fun.
Awesome.
How many acres do you have out there?
Just one right now. Yeah, I want to maybe get more, but it's like at the time I'm like I could only afford the one when I got it, and it's like I didn't want to get more than I could chew, like basically, because even just with this 1 acre, it's like I have like half of it developed, and there's like still another half on the end that's kind of just like not really anything there. So it's like once I kind of get this part finished off in the front, then it's like I'll start kind of migrate my way backwards. And once that's done, then I want to kind of expand from there, hopefully.
So yeah, it's about time to get into our main topic, which I think is going to focus a lot on like Zach's work as a park ranger, but I'm sure I'll go on some tangents as well. But I think we like to start out with a question we ask most people, like, how were you introduced to the outdoors, and how'd you gain that love of the outdoors?
Yeah, no, definitely. So mainly I would say like my dad was the first real introduction to the outdoors. So like when I was like a kid living in Indiana, like he like signed us up to like a DNR program for like hunter's education when I was like, I think I was around 7 or 8 years old, and took that course, got my like hunter's education. So he took us hunting, and then like we went way out in the woods. I think we were in like some area called like Putnamville or something in way rural Indiana. And I just like thought how cool it was. I was like, wow, like there's all these like trees, there's like a stream, there's all these animals, and like I like fell in love with it. And then actually right behind our house too, we kind of had a little like not really big patch of forest, but just a kind of small little kind of area with a creek that ran through it. So me and my brother were like always just back there like playing or just kind of like catching the little minnows that would be in the creek or just kind of making little clubhouses. So we were just always back there playing. But I would say definitely my dad's probably the biggest thing that got me first introduced to her, like with the hunting, the fishing. He like would always take us on camping trips, so I like fell in love with it there. And then obviously you guys probably know this too since you're from the Midwest, but like Tennessee is not too far from us,
Hmm.
so we'd always take trips to like the Great Smoky Mountains and just it was always just super fun. Like I always had an amazing time with that.
Yeah, a lot of people in the Midwest. We've even had a couple people on this podcast where the Smoky Mountains is like the first national park they go to.
It's
Everybody
cool.
just falls in love with it as soon as
Yeah, I
they
love
go to
it.
the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, no, I love it. And same with like Florida too. Florida is not like too far away from us, so we
Yeah.
spend a lot of time like going back and forth from there. So I think that's what really got my love for like the water, like diving and
Mhm.
swimming and boating and all that kind of shenanigans.
No, that's really great. And like with you saying you were building forts and clubhouses, it's weird that like it seems like maybe it's just a boy thing, but I'm sure there are girls that do it too. That like kids aren't talking to each other about like wanting to do that. That's just what they go out there and
Yeah.
do. Because me and my brother did the exact same thing. Like just like
It's
grabbing
wild how
whatever
that works.
sticks and leaning up against stuff
Yeah,
to make our fort. Like I don't know. Maybe
that's what
it's
I'm saying. It's
something like
wild how that works.
genetic. I don't know.
We just get drawn to the wilderness or something.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So eventually, that love continued to grow, and you decided to become a park ranger.
I did.
So I guess how did you how did you move towards becoming a park ranger, and then we'll kind of get into what you did as a park ranger too.
Yeah. So when I first moved back to New Mexico, like that was like part of my like goal was like to get into like something conservation related. Like I just
Mhm.
always like being outdoors and I was like, you know what, it'd be kind of cool to like get paid doing something outside. So I found this program called Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, which is like it's actually part of the AmeriCorps program.
Mhm.
And I did like a couple seasons with them. And we actually were partnering with like a lot of different agencies like the Forest Service and Game and Fish, Open Space, like the one I worked for. So it's just all these different agencies. And then like when I was partnering with Open Space one time, like I guess they had a guy that was like leaving and he was a part-time guy. Like it wasn't even actually for like a ranger position. It was more for like just park maintenance kind of stuff like
Mhm.
that. And they asked me, they're like, hey, like we have this position opening up. It's only part-time. Because I was in college at the time. So I was like, well, you know what? Like that would actually work in my favor. It's like I could still finish
Yeah.
out school and still be like kind of getting my foot more into the door, like with their division. So that's what I did. Like I took the position, worked that one for probably about a year and a half. And then like the park ranger position actually had opened up. And it's like, even though I wasn't like finished with school yet, like they knew I was like midway through it. I already had done good work with them. So like they were like, hey, like this position's opening up. Like I mean, obviously, technically, you kind of need like a degree for it, but like you're kind of getting close to your degree. Like we can kind of pull some strings. Let's just, do you want to go for it? So I mean, it wasn't even a question. Like I just jumped right in, and then the whole hiring process was a mess. It took like probably 7 months before I was actually able to even
Wow.
start. So yeah, it's like once I finally started, yeah, it's just I got on the ground running and fell in love with it.
Well, now we know how they drug it out.
Yeah.
HR.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what it is about city, state, or just any federal thing. Like they just take their sweet time with anything. So yeah, but I mean, I was happy. Like I mean, once it was worth the wait. Like it's all I can say.
Awesome.
So before we really jump into all the things you did, like I think it's probably a good idea to explain like the roles, responsibilities of a park rangers. Because yeah, who knows if
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are very aware of what they
yeah,
actually do.
yeah. Of course. So basically, at least like in a division that I worked for, they were like kind of like two different kind of rangers. They were like the law enforcement rangers, which obviously like their name defines them. Like they would be
Mhm.
enforcing laws and writing tickets and doing all this kind of stuff. And whereas my side was more of like the conservation ranger side of things, where so it's like what I was doing was like patrolling the trails, like making sure that like there weren't like animals in the trail. Like so sometimes I'd have to move like snakes out the road or out the trail and different things like that. I was always making sure like the trails were upkept. So like if there
Mhm.
was like after a huge like storm, sometimes the trails would start eroding or there'd be brush or trees that had been down. So like that was like part of my job was to remove that. And then really just like the educating side of things too. Like there were people that were coming like all around the world to like these parks. And so it's like I was having to like teach them like, okay, this is not Germany, like this is New Mexico. Like maybe you should like bring more water with you. Or telling kids like, hey, if you see like a tarantula, don't go and just pick it up, or teaching people about like kind of staying away from like just some of the bigger wildlife. Like we had like mountain lions and bear and different things in the area. So I was like telling people about that. I was doing maps. So like I remember like I had went out on a lot of these trail projects where we'd be mapping like new areas. So we do these, we have a couple of tools. We'd have like clinometers, which are basically which measure like the grade and like the angle of like the land. And we'd have like GPSs, and we have like a little GIS system that we go out there and we just kind of like map out an area, kind of plan it, like strategically kind of go through and just see like, okay, like this trail is like in a really sand, or this like is a really sandy area. Like how can we work the land so it's not going to just erode completely in 3 months? Or it's like if the area was like super, super rocky, like, okay, well, how can we build a trail with this without that falling apart? So a lot of planning work, like definitely with them. And I would say like the last thing was let's see, probably just kind of just maintenance stuff too. I mean, there were some days where it's like I was rescuing people from the side of the mountain, and there was other times where I was just changing trash bags. So kind of, it just, the role never really like had a definite like, this is what you're going to be doing. It just almost was kind of like what needed to be done. We just did it whenever the time. I always called myself like the janitor of the mountains. Like whatever needed to be done, I was just there and doing it. So yeah, so yeah, it was fun.
Well, that's good. Like, yeah, keeps you on your toes. You don't get bored. You're doing something different every day. So that's
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So you've done a diverse number of things as a park ranger, but what was your favorite thing that you've ever done?
I'd say favorite thing. So is it okay if I do like two? Because there's like two that are like tied right
as many
now.
as you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'd say number one definitely was like, so the state police of New Mexico would always come up and train like in our area, and like they had like this huge helicopter that they'd come in, and they do like grapple training where they like lower a huge like rope, and they like raise people up on it and fly them all around like the mountain and stuff. And so they were more like doing like rescue operations trainings just for obviously people that were hurt or lost or whatever. So like I would always like gain them access to the park. Like I would like be like, hey, this is your spot you can train at, whatever. And we just talk, and then like I would usually just like watch them. But then like after they're like 2 or 3 months of coming, they were like, hey, like, do you want to be a part of our training? And I was like, well, I don't know any like thing about a helicopter, but I'm like, sure. So yeah, they hooked me up in the harness and everything, and like I was basically like their test dummy. So like they like raised me up and like flew me around the mountain and everything.
Wow.
And then just kind of like landed me on the side of a ridge, and I was like supposed to be like hurt. And then like the guys like picked me up and put me in this little like basket thing. And the basket basically like raised me back up into the helicopter and flew me around. So that was super, super cool. Like I think that was like one of my number one favorite time was working with them. And then I'd say number two was so like we managed over an area called the Bosque, which is like the river, the forest that runs along the river. And like there were a lot of fire boats that would come through there. And like I'm sure you've seen them if you lived in Louisiana, Kyle, but like the big fan boats that you see like just kind of going around the swamps and whatnot, like the fire crews would use those. So like they were patrolling around and everything, and like they saw me just kind of walking the trails and checking things out, and they were like, yeah, like, do you want to like come on board the boat and cruise with us? And I was like, yeah, I mean, shoot, like I'm just picking up trash, like I'd rather do that than this. So yeah, I hopped on board and like I like cruised with them like through the river, and like it was just a super cool thing. I mean, I don't think like if I wasn't in that role, I would have ever had that opportunity to open up to me. So those two were probably, I mean, there's many highlights just along the way. So I don't want to just talk about a million things forever, but those two stuck out the most.
No, those are really cool.
Why they stick out. Yeah. It was on my bucket list to fly in a helicopter.
It was great. I mean, I recommend it. It's kind of scary, but it's badass. I loved it.
That's awesome. So those are like your favorite things. Were there any like horror stories or crazy things that you've had to deal with?
Yeah. So I noticed there was a time where, there was a guy, and he was like an older guy. I think he was in his 70s, and he had just had knee surgery, and he was not supposed to be, I guess, going within a certain range. Like he wasn't supposed to really be doing much physical activity at all. But for whatever reason, like there's this guy decided like he wanted to hike one of our trails called the Pinot Trail, which like that trail, it starts from the bottom of the mountain and it takes you all the way to the crest. So it's like an 8-mile trail, like straight uphill, and it takes you from like 6,000 to 10,000 feet. But anyways, like the guy went up the trail, and like then his knee that he had just got surgery on went like out of place. So then he got like stuck on like a ridge line. And I'm not sure like how he called the alert or whatever, but he called like the 911, and then they reached out to our office, and they were like, "Hey, we have a hiker that's stuck on the Pinot Trail. Like, we need to come up and like find him." But then like the EMTs got there, and they didn't even know where like the Pinot Trail was. So then like I had to like lead him up the side of the mountain. So we started hiking up this trail, and this was in like February, so it's still a lot of snow on the ground. It's windy, it's cold, it's just miserable. So then we finally get him, and it's like, yeah, his knee's all out of place, and he's shivering and just like looks just horrible. And we put him in this like kind of, it's like I would describe it as like a basket, but it has like this big like off-roading like all-terrain tire on the bottom of it.
Yeah,
Like
it's a big wheel. Yeah.
Big wheel, yeah, exactly. So we put him inside of that. But the EMTs that had like came up with me, like they didn't have like hiking boots on, they didn't have equipment, they didn't have anything. Like they came up just in their normal EMT outfits. So they were sliding up and down the mountain, and it's like the guy was shifting this way and that way. And by the time we got him back down, it's like the park was basically closing and the sun was going down, so it was freezing, and it was just a miserable experience. I mean, I was happy we were able to get him, but it was just miserable for me and him and the EMTs, and just trying to like tell people like, hey, we're carrying a guy down, like get out the way, and like they're with their headphones in, jogging or doing whatever, not paying attention like that. That just kind of sucked. And then like another time was like reversing it from the cold. Like this actually kind of happened this time of year, like around June, where these teenagers had went way up the side of one of our canyons called Embedito Canyon, and they graffiti like over just all these rocks. Like they put like "I love Albuquerque" all over the rocks, but it was like in huge letters, like probably the size of like a small car. And then like with the way we have to get graffiti off is like we have these huge water packs with like all these chemicals mixed in it. And it's like we have to hike basically up the side of the mountain and like take these brushes and scrub it and then spray it off. So it's like 97 outside. I have this giant pack on, and like I'm basically like rock climbing, getting up to the side of this mountain just to get all the way up there to realize that like half the chemicals like spilled out. So like we got all the way up there, got half of it off, and then it was still like there's probably a big portion of it up there still to this day. Cause like I was like, I'm not doing this again. Like this is a one time. You're gonna have to hire somebody else to do it again. So, but then those 2 times were just miserable, and it's just like, I don't know. I'm like, I'd be much happier if he just would have spray painted over a Smokey the Bear sign or something on the ground versus on the side of a canyon. So yeah, those times suck, but no, there's too many goods to be bad. So I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the takeaway is like it's not all daisies and roses or whatever that sunshine and daisies or whatever that phrase is.
Yeah, 100% not. Yeah, because a lot of people would come in the parks and they'd be like, hey, like, you have my dream job. And I was like, yeah, there's some dreamy parts about it, but I don't think you realize half the hell that we have to go through all the time. It's like people even trash places, or especially the graffiti, or sometimes there's a guy who crashed his truck through one of our fence lines and like tore up a whole bunch of trails. So yeah, I was like, they don't tell you about all that side of things, like with the park ranger thing, but then it's like when you're in it, you're just in it.
Cleaning vault toilets that look like someone exploded in it. It's like, how? Like, bring in the pressure washer.
I can't even tell you how many toilets I've walked into, and I'm like, how did this even happen? Like, it's like, I was like, good God. Or same with like after weddings and stuff, and people would like be busting bottles or just drunk, like falling out, and it's like just, oh my God. Yeah. So there's a lot of strangeness that would happen up there.
That's something we can kind of go into. If you wanted to like make a statement that you could tell people that we're going to recreate in these parks, what would you tell them if you had like this platform to tell people?
I would just say, number one, like use the thing that's in between your skull called your brain, because there's so many people that like as soon as they hit the trail, it's like their brain will just shut off, and like they don't think like when they're doing something like, hey, there's a rattlesnake in the road, like maybe I shouldn't like step completely over and get bit, or like, hey, like there's cactus in the area, like you might get poked if you run into them. So just common sense thinking is number one. And also like just like check your surroundings and check your weather too. Yeah, because some people like there'd be a blizzard on the way, and they're like, hey, I'm about to go start like an 8-mile hike, and I was like, hey, there's like a blizzard that's like coming in 1 hour, like you probably shouldn't do that. And they're like, oh, it's going to pass. This will be whatever. And the next thing I know, like we're calling a rescue crew out for them. Or I would say number one, or just bringing what you need, like water, flashlight, food, just whatever you think you're gonna need. Because there'd be, like I said, people that were coming from like across the world that'd be coming to like a desert, like in New Mexico, and not bring any water at all, and then wonder why their like faces like turning all pale and like they're seeing like colors and stuff, and they're kind of passing out. So I would say number one, use your brain. Number two, like check your surroundings, check your weather. And number three, just be prepared. Like just bring anything, and it's better to have it not need it than to need it not have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And keep your clothes on. Yeah, don't run around naked. Like, that's just, yeah.
The sun is
in the
very
desert, yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
So you said that
Yeah.
you whenever we first got started that you built an off-grid house.
I did indeed. Actually, I built two of them. This is actually my newest one I'm sitting in right now. So that has been its own adventure of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you're in the desert, probably on solar.
I am. Yeah. So yeah, we have a basically all of our utilities are actually ran on solar except for just like the heating elements. So like the obviously we have like a gas heater for just when we don't want to burn a wood stove, and then we have like a shower heater, sink heater. So all the heating components are on like gas. But yeah, all the like appliances, like the what am I trying to say? The refrigerator, the lights, the TV, like all of those basic appliances are on solar, which is really cool. So it's like I don't really have an electric bill except for like when
really
the
nice.
gas and stuff needs to get like refilled or whatever like that. So it's kind of a nice little thing. And then I'd say the one thing about it that's like I love is the number one. It's like, yeah, I don't have really bills, but it's like the number two thing is like, yeah, it's kind of like sucks if something stops working. Then I'm like, oh, like, okay, I can't call like the electrical company and be like, hey, like my power messed up. Like, can you come fix it? So
People are
like,
the electric company.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm the electric, the water, the whatever company. So it's like when something messes up, it's like it comes down to like even right now, it's like our shower pump went out yesterday, and like I like went around to like so many different stores today, like the Harbor Freight and Lowe's and Home Depot, like looking for a new pump, and there was just like none anywhere. So it's like, yeah, I have to wait like till I guess Sunday before our shower pump comes. So I'm gonna have to like run into town and just like shower at the gym for now. Well, I mean, we're gonna be on the boat trip this weekend, so won't really matter. But at least for the next couple of days, if that doesn't get here by Sunday, then I have to do that. So little things like that kind of get annoying. And then plus the gnats are terrible this time of year too. So yeah, as soon as you step outside, they're just everywhere.
Yeah, when the winds stop, the bugs come in and start harassing you. Did you build a tiny house? An earth chip or?
So basically, what I did is like, there's a company that's here in New Mexico called Weather King. Actually, I guess I think there might be nationwide, and they build these like kind of pre-built cabins, but they're basically just like the shell of the cabin. Like they don't have like anything in them. They're just a shell, like with windows and a door and whatever. So I basically like got two of those, like got them delivered to the property. Like we put the foundation, everything down. And then it's like from there, like we started converting like the interior, like so like running the like electrical and the plumbing and all of that kind of whatnot, and putting the drywall on, like all that kind of stuff. And then from there, it's like it just turned into a functional tiny home. So each house is about maybe 400 square feet, maybe 410 to be exact. So yeah, it's like with them combined now, it's like about 820 feet somewhat like a living space. So not like a mansion or nothing, but yeah, bigger than a studio apartment, at least like what it was when I had just the first one.
Yeah. Cool. So did you have all of these like handyman type skills when you decided to do this, or were you learning along your way?
Absolutely not. Like negative. Like actually the farthest thing away. I didn't even know how to paint a wall before I started this thing. So it's like, I mean, that's kind of the real thing that like taught me a lot. It was like trial and error. It's like I would do something, I was like, this looks horrible, and then I would like stop. And then like the good thing is like I do have like a lot of friends and family members that are like in contracting businesses and stuff. So like they really helped me out a lot, like learning how to like hang drywall or learning how to put flooring in or learning how to do like the wiring and stuff. Cause like, I mean, I know like the basic stuff that I needed, like the survivability of stuff. Like, okay, I need heat, I need cooling in the summer, I need water. So it's like I knew how to do that kind of stuff, but like the whole like building a house, I didn't know a single thing at all. So it's like, but now I feel confident where it's like if I had one that was like basically in the same stage as an empty shell, like I mean I probably couldn't do everything by myself, but I could at least like make it livable, which is a cool thing, I guess.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
because a lot of people these days don't appreciate how much like how much work a lot of those things take. They just
It
like,
does, yeah.
yeah.
It's insane. Yeah, I was actually talking to a guy. I had a guy yesterday. He was because on one of the new cabins, like the siding was like coming off for some reason, and like the guy who like built it, like the exterior, he came out and was like helped me replace the siding. I actually stayed out there with him to like learn how he did the siding. So like we did it together, and I was like, dude, I was like, I have like so much respect for you right now. Like it's 97 degrees, there's gnats everywhere. And like you're out here helping me with this, so like I commend you. So anybody who's doing contracting work, like they have some grit because it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like my
Yeah.
dad's an electrician, so like I know
Jeez.
some of that stuff, and man,
It's
there's
complicated.
yeah, no, it really is. It really
Yeah.
is. People
And then
just
it's like,
like
oh, sorry,
oh,
sorry.
no, no, I was just gonna say people just get mad when their electricity doesn't work, and
Yeah,
they complain about how much it costs to send somebody out to fix it and all those. Yeah, it's just
exactly. Because
I won't
it's
go
an
down that
effort.
tangent.
And yeah, and then it's like if you do it wrong, then your house could burn down. So it's
Yep,
like you don't
exactly.
want it to be done wrong. And I would say that's like guys, like the whole, especially with the upgrade, yeah, it's just been a lot of trial and error. Like I know when I first like learned how to put the solar in, like I didn't really understand like how like wattage and amps and like power output. I didn't really understand how a lot of that works. So like I bought like this really cheap kit at the start, but from like Harbor Freight,
Mhm.
and I put it together, and I was like, all right, we're good. And I like plugged my fridge in, and I went out of town, and I came back, and like everything had like spoiled, and like all the meat had just like had flies around it, and I was like, what just happened here? And it's like, yeah, the solar just it didn't put out the like proper ampage like first, like
Mm,
it's a good because basically how solar works, it's like you have like a big like deep cycle battery, and that battery is what's powering everything, and the solar is
mhm,
like kind of like recharging that battery just on a consistent basis. But then it's like the problem is obviously the sun's not out at night, so it's like
mhm.
it has to build up a good amount of charge during the day to put up them enough power through the whole night. So it's like I didn't understand how that worked at first, and it's like so I bought like a too small of a kit that didn't charge enough during the day, and then it's like yeah, went bad at night. So, but now we all figured out. Now our fridge works, everything's good. So it's like yeah, been solid. Even a wood stove too. Like I almost burned myself down my first winter here because I didn't know how to do that right. So it's kind of wild.
Well, that sounds
No.
like a story
Yeah.
for another
Animals too
time.
have been a problem too. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That could be a whole tangent of its own. Just
Yeah.
conflicts and solutions.
No, but that's really, really cool. That's
Thank
I,
you.
I
Thank
I
you.
like it when people like see their dreams and then they build their dreams. And
Me
yeah, of
too.
course you're gonna have like struggles along the way, but you learn from
Yeah,
those struggles and
exactly.
you get it done.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so one of the big things that we like talking, well, like our main theme of this podcast is getting more people outside. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
a very important part of your story is that, well, since this is an audio kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
podcast, I'll say Zach is an African American man,
Hmm.
and most park rangers or people in conservation type fields, it's mostly white dudes. And there are
Yeah.
some white women there too. So I think it's really important, and I would love to hear your take on how important representation for minority groups in these outdoor fields is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's super, super important for like minorities to be in these fields just because, like, I mean, this is kind of what I was saying on Corey's story was that, like, most people like look at these kind of jobs like park rangers, conservation rangers, like forest fighter, or like the forestry crews, like any of those like type of jobs, they look at those like those are like, oh yeah, like a white person job. Like black people shouldn't be out there in the woods, like hiking up the side of a mountain rescuing someone. That's just not something we are deemed that we do. So it's like I think having me like there, like that face, like people see me and are like, oh yeah, you're like a black guy, like you have dreadlocks, like you look like me,
Mhm.
like you're doing this kind of job. Like whoa, like what's going on here? Like I can't even tell you how many times like people like of color would come up to the park and they would just like be so astounded that I was there. Like they'd be, "Oh my
That's
god, like you're
awesome.
the first black park ranger I've ever seen." And like there'd be people like trying to take pictures of me and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm not like some historic treasure or nothing. I'm like, I'm just here. Like I just like being outside, and I think that you guys should too. There's no reason that you should not do it just because of your color, or your ethnicity, or anything of that nature. So yeah, I think just having us out there
Yeah.
shows everybody else that like, okay, this is something that you guys can do too, and you shouldn't be afraid or like nervous to do it because you don't want to be like judged by whoever. So
Mhm. Yeah,
definitely.
and we've talked to other folks and on other episodes where it's you can be that person, say like a kid comes to the park
Yeah,
and
exactly.
sees you there as the park ranger, and then there's that light in their heads like, oh, I can do that. I can
Yeah,
be that.
yeah.
I can be that
Hmm.
person. So it's always great to have that. You can be the inspiration for kids
Exactly.
or adults. It doesn't have to be kids either. So that's just
Hmm.
really, it's a really great thing. And
Yeah.
I wish we had more of it.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I agree. And I think that's why like having more African Americans in that field would like change. Because I mean, at least when I worked for Open Space, like I was the only African American in the entire division. Like, so it was like it was kind of like cool at times because I was like, oh wow, like this is I'm really making the culture out. And there was other times like it would almost like get demotivating because people would like they almost sometimes they like stereotype me. It's like where they come and they'd ask me like, oh, like did you like hear about this rapper? Did you see the new like the most recent basketball game or did you? And I was like, hold on, like why out of anybody you could have asked in the division, like why are
yeah,
y'all coming to me asking that? So it's just like yeah, there'd be times where I was like, damn, like I kind of wish that there was like another after somebody I wouldn't get like singled out to be like
yeah,
ask stupid questions. So
yeah.
especially
Because
too like during oh yeah, go ahead, sorry.
no, I was just gonna say because they're probably not going up to the white park ranger next to you
Yeah,
asking those questions. Like, come on, have a little
exactly.
like, ugh.
Exactly. Especially during the whole like I think it was in 2020 when there was the George Floyd and all that black life
Yeah,
when all that mess was going on, like there were tons of people that were like coming to the park and they're like asking like, "Oh, how do you feel about this?" or "Did you support this?" or like, "What do you?" It's like, okay, first of all, like you're coming here to see the mountains. You're not coming
yeah,
here to talk political mess. Like, I don't want to know. So it's like, I mean, and I'm always down to talk to people about whatever, but it'd be kind of a lot of times where it's like, yeah, that because I was like an African American in that field, like they'd single me out versus like,
hmm
yeah, like I said, like the white guy sitting next to me, like they wouldn't ask him about like what does he feel about Black Lives Matter.
yeah,
So kind of
yeah.
wild.
It's unfair to you that all of those questions get directed towards
Yeah,
you, but at the same
exactly.
time, it seems like you kind of took it and made the best of it. But
Yeah, 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 exactly. And I
yeah,
try to. I mean, I just like educating people. It's like, I
yeah,
mean, I have my views and opinions, and I just like telling people how I feel about it. It's not like anything I'm ashamed of or mad or
hmm
anything. It's just like, yeah, I think that that's the biggest thing. Is like conversations like that need to be had or like had and whatnot, and just I'm no stranger to be afraid of that.
yeah, that's good. And since
Mhm.
they are talking to you, you could always use those type of conversations to educate them around the area that they're in
Yeah,
too, because
exactly.
they're reaching out, they're talking to the park ranger like you should
Yeah,
to
yeah,
learn how to safely and responsibly recreate in the area you're in. So
exactly,
that's very
exactly.
cool. But yeah, this is a similar thing, but
Hmm.
we've talked to uh, a previous guest, Bree, about
Hmm.
diversity in the outdoors,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and making the outdoors a more equitable and
Mhm.
inclusive place. What are
Yep.
some things that just like normal people, or I'll throw Kyle and I in here, like just white dudes that are out and out? What can things that people like us can do to make this a more welcoming place? Because if you just see like a
Yeah.
line of white dudes, it's not the most welcoming look sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like the number one thing is just yeah, like just making people feel comfortable. Like say like hello, like hey, like
Yeah.
did you see that cool waterfall? Did you see that cool? Because I know like at least being from Indiana, like there'd be times like we go hunting and we'd be way backwoods of Indiana. It's like yeah, it's primarily like a white environment. And it's like we come there and people would like just give us like kind of like almost like death stares, like why are you here? And it
Mm.
wasn't like a like warming feeling, but instead I
Yeah.
think it's like if we would have like walked into that environment, we were like, and even if like they weren't even saying hello, just like their gestures, like they nod their
Mm.
head or they smile
Body
at you or just
language. Yeah.
yeah, body language exactly. And it's just like little things like that, or just like even not even trying to like single people out for like oh like because I know there's been times where like I've worked with other minorities like people who are from like Mexico or people who are from like certain parts of Asia. And
Mhm.
then like the first thing like I'll be on like a trail project with like another guy and he'll be like, "Oh, like where what country are you from?" And I was like, "Hey, like dude, just I mean, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
cool question to ask. Like I like learning people, but it's like don't make that person feel like they're any different than you. It's just
Yeah.
like you're here to enjoy the mountain and that's it. Like you're not here to talk about politics or color or
hmm
any of that mess. It's like we're all originally like from nature. So it's like why not just enjoy it together like we were meant to do. So I'd say like yeah, that and then probably just I guess just educating people about things. I think it's like people especially like a lot of black people, they have such this like stereotype in their head. They're like, oh, if they go in the woods, then they're gonna get like kidnapped, or they're gonna get like all these terrible things happening to them. But instead, it's like there could be just like, let's say like a white guy who just like is like, hey, like, like, do you know what this kind of tree is right here? And he can educate like that African American about that tree. Then it's like that trust gets built right there.
Yeah.
And then they don't get like nervous about like, oh, like this guy just taught me about like this cool tree or this cool like plant or this cool animal, instead of like, oh, he didn't like take me and try to like drag me in a cave or something ridiculous. So yeah. So yeah, something I would say like that, just building that connection, that like rapport, because like, I don't know. I mean, for at the end of the day, I that's why I'm happy that like I think that people now are having that sense of like, okay, we can learn about any culture anytime we want. Like we can type it on our phone, we can fly here, because it's not like we're living in the 1800s. You have to take a ship like for 5 months to get anywhere. It's like you can actually travel and see these places and see these cultures, and then like express like your views and their views and connect. So it's a cool thing.
Yeah, that's great. No, I like that. That's really good insight.
Thanks. Hopefully it was enough.
No, everybody's got to start somewhere. And it like, if you want to sum that down, it's just like, be welcoming, be nice to people, say, hey, like, it's as simple as that, right?
Yeah. You'd be surprised how much of like a smile and a wave it does on a trail versus like somebody mean mugging looking at you.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're already in the woods, and it's like there's somebody mean mugging you. It's like you might be like, okay, what is this dude up to? So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we're learning, is that as we've done these episodes and we've talked to different people, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, whatever, the foundation to inclusion starts with the greeting.
Exactly.
Just a simple hi, hello, how are you doing? And I, to tie it back to Twerk's project, it's that we're all human, and just treat people as humans, and you start with the greeting.
Yep. And even kind of reversing it from there, it's like, let's say I see like another like African American on the trail, or like another minority. It's like making them feel like this is not out of the ordinary for you guys. Like, cause like that's kind of what I talked about in the podcast, was that like, I mean, Black people spend more time outside than inside. Like we were like hunters and gatherers and map finders. We did a lot of stuff like in our culture, and then like, but I don't, and I kind of know where that trailed away. I would say like a lot of like the, like just discrimination or like the slavery or just all these different things have kind of trailed, like, I think Black people away from like being outdoors, being in the woods, or being like remote or off grid or any of that kind of stuff. So I think it's just like, let's say I see another Black person on trail, like, or if they're interested in going, like, hey, like showing them that like that's okay, like it's a safe place. Like we were out here more than we were like I don't know, in a rap studio doing whatever. So it's like, you just gotta show them that like there's cool stuff. Like I'd rather go see some like crazy waterfall and like some mountain than go see like, I don't know, go to the club and drink or whatever. So it's like, you just gotta show them like there's these cool things out there, and the only way for you to see them is to go out there. Like you can't be like afraid.
No, and it all starts with maybe just seeing someone that looks like them that are out there doing it. So,
100%, exactly.
So you definitely did a lot of good, for sure.
I've tried. Definitely trying. I'm actually trying to currently get back into it, so it's like we're gonna see what happens.
Hey, I'd love to see it, for sure.
Yeah, me too. We'll see what happens.
All right, Kyle, do you have any other questions before I go into my favorite questions?
I do not.
All right. So I ask these questions of everybody.
Yep.
And this doesn't have to necessarily be in your park ranger work. This can be, and you can kind of answer it however you want. But what is your biggest outdoor mistake?
Jeez. I guess what isn't my biggest outdoor? I made a lot of them, but I'd say number one is like, because I think I mentioned earlier, it's like I really, really like dirt biking and four-wheeling. And I'd say biggest outdoor mistake is not wearing a helmet on a trail. Is because, like there's been so many times, like I'll just tell one quick story. When I was in Angel Fire, which is like a small town up in northern New Mexico, I was like riding on a trail and I didn't have a helmet on, and like I hit a cattle guard, like the things on the ground to keep the cattle from moving.
Yeah.
and my wheel got stuck in it and flung me off the bike, and I hit my face on the steel of the cattle guard and knocked myself out, gave myself a concussion. Like it was bad. So, and then there's multiple times of me just getting really, really bad accidents. I mean, because when you're on a trail, like, or anywhere, like, I guess on a 4-wheeler or a dirt bike, it's like you hit that ground and like if it's dirt or rock, like that's just as bad as hitting concrete. So I'd say that's probably biggest number one outdoor mistake is not wearing a helmet while 4-wheeling or biking or dirt, any of that. Anything on wheels on dirt should be wearing a helmet.
That's good. Yeah.
So whenever I went
I would
down,
agree to that.
I was wearing a helmet. I mean, I went down.
Oh,
yeah, that's just part of it. But I remember sliding across the blacktop and looking back and going, wow, the coefficient of friction is really low for asphalt when you're going fast enough.
Yeah.
Because I just kept sliding and I was like, wow. and then the next question I was asked was, well, what did you do whenever you got up? Did you do like the Family Guy going? And I was like, actually, I did. I got up because it just instantaneously burns. If you ever had
road rash,
you're just
it's terrible. God,
this is way worse.
And it's just like it's like it starts hitting worse after like the next day. Like it's just that once it's like that pain settles, there's like, God, it's like, I really messed myself up.
Yeah. And Bactine with lidocaine is a lie. That is that hurts worse.
Yeah, 100%.
Than regular Bactine. I mean, it was like
But yeah, no, there's nothing fun about falling on the ground. It's almost like that's the one moment you wish that gravity didn't exist.
Yep.
No. Yeah, that's one of those things I've completely ingrained in my kids. Anytime they get on any like bike, scooter, like they don't have skateboards, but if they ever get skateboards, it's like, no, kids, 100% of the time helmet. Like, nope.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to limit our hospital visits, please.
They are not cheap.
No,
are not.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, that's a great mistake.
like I said, there's lots of them, but that's definitely one I would recommend for anybody.
That's good. Like, yeah, and I asked that because it's to show that everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes. Like,
exactly.
I've almost died multiple times for really dumb things. So,
that's all I'm saying.
But yeah, my other question is just kind of a catch-all. So is there a question we should be asking you? Is there like subject you want to talk about that I just completely missed when I was putting some questions together, or did we do a good job? That kind of thing.
I mean, no, I think we definitely did a good job. I mean, let's see, Rick. I can't really think of too many things that I could ask. I guess like maybe like what is somebody's favorite outdoor space or something? I don't know. That's the only thing I could think. Besides that, I think everything else was asked.
Well, what's your favorite outdoor space?
See, that's what I'm getting. Like a hard. I guess it's a hard question because it's a hard answer. There's so many different ones, but I would say probably like. So I went diving actually in this place in South Carolina called Barracuda Reef, and it was like super cool. And it's like it's about probably 10 miles off the coast. And you dive down and there's just like, it's like this artificial like reef essentially. And it's like, I still haven't got a chance. And I'm sure my opinion will change once I dive in a real reef, but it's like, I dove in this artificial reef and it's like just the amount of life that was there. Like there were like stingrays, there were sea turtles. There were like, just, there's big, like, I think they were called, what are they called? They're like, like a guitar fish, I think is what they're called. And there's just like all these crazy animals that are like all around. There's like, and it's called Barracuda Reef because like there's barracudas that are just like circling all over the place too, which is kind of scary. But
yeah,
the water was like super. Yeah, the water was super clear. Yeah, it was scary. When I first got in the water, I was like, I'm not getting in this. Like, this is too much. And I got out, and then it's like the captain on the boat. He's like, oh, they do like these barracudas. They don't bother anybody. Just it's whatever. Just don't mess with them.
These ain't type.
Yeah. And I was just like, well, that's real convincing. And it's like, no, it might. Like, I'd be the one to get my like leg like torn off or something by one. But yeah, no, I mean that place was just like it just felt unworldly.
Oh, and I think it's time to bring it home. So,
Zach,
do you want to plug yourself, social media stuff, or actually, if you have any friends stuff you want to plug, you can plug that too.
Yeah. So of course, My Instagram is the first Black Bandit, so it's the first and then underscore Black Bandit. If you want to see what I'm doing in my life in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, which that's also the thing. If you're in New Mexico, like, I mean, obviously we're in a big state, so if you're 6 hours away, like at the very bottom of the state, I might not be able to see you. But if you're anywhere in Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, Espanola, within like the hour to two range, like let me know, and I'm down to come see whoever wants to come on out here. And let's see, Facebook. If you type in Zach Darden, you'll find me. And yeah, I actually am working on a new thing, which actually is kind of an old / new. I have a TikTok that's called Nature's Auntie. So I used to walk around with like a bonnet, and I would like pretend to be an aunt, and I would like teach people about nature. But now I'm kind of incorporating that to like teaching people about off grid. So I've been like being Nature's Auntie, teaching people about how to live off grid, like how to purchase land, like the things to look for, things to like I don't know, like avoid. So yeah, check out Nature's Auntie on TikTok, and you will find me.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll link both of those in the show note, or all of that in the show notes.
Right on.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. So I'll just do all my regular stuff to kind of close us out. But yeah, if anybody wants to support the podcast, you can rate us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice. I think the best ones are Apple and Spotify. I think allows you to rate now. The podcast Instagram is @MereMortalPod. I need to post more on there, and I will get on doing that. But if you have any comments, questions, or just want to say hey, you can email the podcast at adventuringformeremortals@gmail.com. My personal Instagram is @TrevorBowman, 2 L's, 2 N's. Kyle has no social media presence whatsoever. I think he's just doing it to annoy me now. But you can just keep waving at people that look like a Kyle. I mean, he's in Central PA, but he's all over. So you can just wave at people that look like Kyle all over.
I mean, Pretzel was waving at people in Montana.
Yeah, that's right? That's right. Oh, and also the show, we do have a Discord channel. So if that's your thing, the link to join that is in the show notes. And with that, Zach, thanks so much for coming on. This is a really great conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And so I guess we'll just talk to everybody next month. We'll talk to y'all later.
Yep. See you later. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.